Welcome to the Mind Money Spectrum podcast, where your hosts, Aaron Ogti and Trishul Patel, go beyond traditional finance questions to help you explore how to use your money to achieve the freedom you want in life.
In this episode, Trishul and Aaron think about the various gift-giving traditions they have enjoyed over the years. From childhood arts and crafts, to cash in their teenage years, to coordinated gift exchanges as adults. Giving and receiving presents evolves as we age. They discuss Secret Santas and white elephants. They also highlight the fine line between a gift card being appropriate and just being lazy. And finally, Aaron reveals his secret to giving the perfect gift. And now, on to our conversation.
Hi, my name is Aaron Ogti. I'm a financial advisor in the Bay Area, and I'm here with Trishul Patel, a wealth manager on the East Coast.
Hey, Aaron, great to be here today, and thanks everybody for listening.
Great to be here as well. With Christmas coming up soon, Trishul and I wanted to talk about some of the kind of traditions and things we've done in the past when it comes to giving presents. In previous conversations, we've talked about gifting and kind of both the psychological, behavioral benefits and also some of the kind of financial aspects. But today, we're going to keep it very lighthearted and really just kind of the act of giving presents to family members for Christmas. I celebrate Christmas, and Trishul, I believe you also celebrate Christmas. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
So I want to kind of start off. I remember when I was a kid, my parents, I have a younger brother, younger sister. My parents would help us buy a present for each other family member. So my dad, I was a kid, I didn't have any money. So my dad would take me to the Navy Exchange because he was in the Navy, and that's just kind of their general. The Navy Exchange and the commissary. Commissary was food. Navy Exchange was department storage, like everything else. Like what you think of it as like a Target or Walmart. So everything we bought was from the Navy Exchange. And my dad would be there to help me buy a present for my mom, might help me buy a present for my brother and sister. Then another time my mom would take me, help me buy a present for my dad. So each Christmas morning, there was a present from me to my dad, to my mom, to my brother, to my sister. And they did the same thing. So there's 5 family members. We're each giving 4 gifts. So there's 20 total presents under the tree. Plus there'd be presents from Santa for each of the kids. And then maybe other extended family members had mailed presents. But it was this kind of 5 times 4 idea is one of the things I keep thinking about. And as we started to get older, kind of got into teenage years, it was never explicit, but there was, I don't want to say pressure in terms of our using our own money, but our parents made us aware that kind of costs mattered, so we couldn't just buy anything for anyone. And if we wanted to do something more than just say $20, $25 at the Navy Exchange, we probably had to use our own money, something along those lines. And as we got older, sometimes we would have cousins around, or aunts and uncles, or my grandparents. And especially when I got to be an adult, and I met my girlfriend, fiance, now wife, my siblings got married, that concept of just each person giving one gift to another, it started to compound, where instead of being 5 times 4, now it's 6 times 5, and then it'd be 7 times 6. And so it kind of very quickly got to be too much. And so we kind of acknowledged this. So the first kind of gift giving idea was setting a price limit, that making sure that we're kind of keeping a similar budget, everyone gets a similar value of gift, but also kind of it implies some financial constraints of can't spend too much on all the Christmas presents. And then the next level was doing a gift exchange or a Secret Santa style, where instead of me getting 4 presents, or 5 or 6 as the family got bigger, for each family member. We would choose names out of a hat, make sure we didn't draw our own name, and now we are only buying one present for one person. And two things happen. One, we get to kind of spend a little bit more time and energy and kind of focus on that one person. And two, instead of spending, say, 25, or by the time we were in our early adulthood, it might have been up to 50, kind of $50 times 4 or 5 or 6, we could actually spend something like $100 or $200 on one person. So kind of the total amount spent was less, but instead of receiving 4 or 5 or 6 presents worth $25 to $50, you might get one really nice present that you otherwise would not buy for yourself. And I think that was one of the kind of the big themes was that there was the first kind of like time I felt like this, the process of giving Christmas presents had to be organized and coordinated. And like as a kid, I knew my parents were doing it, but I didn't really acknowledge it till later on in adulthood. But that the giving Christmas presents and the organization is still something I think about. There's been a few other ways that this is played out. So Trisha, with that in mind, was there anything that you could think of either from your childhood or early adulthood about giving Christmas presents to family members, or any other traditions that you might have had growing up?
It seems like there is this natural evolution that occurs that you kind of laid out with your family. And I saw a parallel certainly with what happened throughout my life, as I was growing up with my family. And Christmas does stand out because it is one of those holidays where presents are a big deal, especially for kids. And even though myself and my family weren't Christian, it was certainly part of, from a secular standpoint, a tradition that we held on to throughout my childhood and even to this day. It's a time where if you're very young, you definitely look forward to those Christmas presents. And I find myself even following some similar steps that, maybe my parents did for us, where with my daughter, it's the notion of, okay, if you be good, you can have more presents, or Santa will bring you something nice. And it just became so easy to kind of use that as a little tool to help guide a young toddler to kind of behave, or motivate a toddler to, become potty trained sooner or something like that. So I could see how the tradition itself has a lot of convenience attached to it in the eyes of kids as a strong motivating factor. And I probably felt that same way as a child for myself. I think, very young, the gifts that ended up going from, children to parents and siblings, from my perspective, were just crafts that were kind of created either around the house or just set activities at school. I remember creating little things either from, tons of popsicle sticks, or those pipe cleaners type things, the colorful ones that you can bend into shapes and all that. And so I think arts and crafts was a big part of at least the tradition when we were very young. And kind of, the opposite direction was you get to pick out, like a toy from Santa, one big toy, and then maybe something else, a few smaller things. I remember that quite distinctly. And then, of course, they show up and Santa delivers them and whatnot. But I do recall, maybe I was approaching maybe 8 or 10 years old, something like that. And then just kind of waking up in the middle of the night and looking for my mom, probably asking her to put me back to bed, and then finding her wrapping presents. I'm sure that's a common a common theme for a lot of kids that they may have discovered, oh, okay, that maybe that's how it works. My mom is Santa's helper for
Yeah.
finishing the last mile of the gifts. I do recall that. But as you grow up, you do get this evolution of not only being able to maybe concentrate your gifts into be receiving maybe less items, but one item of more value or two items of more value, but also, as you had mentioned, maybe giving one or two big gifts to one person and doing that kind of round robin type of notion. I do recall that type of evolution. So it's interesting because it seems like we had two separate upbringings, obviously, but there was a lot of parallels there.
Not only the parallels that you already mentioned, like as soon as you said it, I have that like nostalgia memory of the crafting and the gifts. And I believe my parents still have ornaments on their tree that I made in school, in elementary school, as a probably on the scale of 5 to 8 or 9, something like that, where it's a picture of me. My siblings have similar ornaments with like a year on the back, and it could be on a popsicle stick frame. I think one would have been like a modeling clay style frame, so it is made into a wreath that was hardened. But yeah, that the really young doing the crafting gifts and school helping with that, and getting the picture and the year. That we did the exact same thing. It was that those arts and crafts style gifts from the really young ones that I think my parents still have on their tree.
I wonder if the popsicle stick industry is fully supported by these picture frames that kids make every year.
Well, I don't know about the popsicle stick industry because I can imagine other functional uses. I do wonder about the pipe cleaner industry. Like, how much of their revenue, because these were like originally pipe cleaners, they would use them to clean out a pipe. It's a brush on a wire thing. How much of the pipe cleaner industry is now arts and crafts as opposed to the original function?
Right. If you need a neon green or
Yeah.
a bright purple pipe cleaner for any other purpose, it'd be hard to imagine what that would be for.
It's like, man, just from a business perspective, that's a great pivot. Like, how do you survive pipes going out of fashion? You repurpose them to arts and crafts.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a handful of other crazy examples on that, on us leveraging things where it was a completely different purpose, but here we are. It's found a new home.
Yeah, yeah. I'm shocked that I have pipe cleaners in the house, but like apparently they come with elementary school kids. Like as soon as they get into elementary school, apparently you have pipe cleaners in your house. And my wife, if she heard me, she might be upset. I'm guessing she buys them and keeps them in a drawer somewhere, and the kids know where that is, but I don't. But yeah, there's pipe cleaners being used for art projects in the house all the time. So when it comes to like the Christmas presents or Christmas morning or even Christmas Eve, I remember kind of one of the family traditions. We didn't do it every year, so I don't know how much of a tradition it was, but sometimes we would open one present on Christmas Eve, and that was I don't know, it was a reward for being good and waiting that extra night or something like that, or just something to do on Christmas Eve since school's closed and we're going anywhere anyways. But are there any other kind of little Christmas morning or eve gift giving traditions that you can think of?
Yeah, just as you had said, we had the same thing. I recalled many years growing up where it was that one gift the night before, and then the next day, for obvious reasons, the kids would be up before the sun even came up, and it'd be up there. We'd be up there by the tree. Having the tree itself and the lights outside, Aaron, you had even mentioned that was a big part of what your tradition and your current home, right? Having the Christmas lights. I remember part of the holiday season, along with the gifts, was, what new lights did we get to kind of throw up around the house or inside and outside?
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, I do love decorating my house with Christmas lights, and I even put a picture on my website in one of my articles. And this year we even did it early. We started all the way back in beginning of November because it genuinely makes us happy, and we need more of those things in 2020. So we are that house on the street that decorated way too early this year.
It's interesting because now that I have a young child, I can see the appeal of something like that from a different perspective. As an adult, you kind of take it from granted. This is kind of just what happens around the season, and you get to see these pretty things. But from a 3-year-old's perspective, you really see all of this crazy stuff basically magically appear overnight. And you really don't have a context for it. If you're 3, this is kind of your first Christmas where you can put down memories and, kind of put one day to the next together. And just seeing all these crazy things pop up around town that we get to look at from my daughter's perspective just makes her really excited about just what's happening around her. And I can imagine how that must feel now.
We noticed this probably a couple years ago, especially in the last year and this year, when daylight saving time ends. We're going to pick up our son from daycare about 5:30, and so the drive back, it's starting to be dark, and so we have a timer on the Christmas lights that they turn on at dusk and goes for either 6 or 8 hours. So it's approximately going to like 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. or like 4:30 to 12:30. So it's not all night. But driving home and coming up where it's dark outside and kind of under normal circumstances, like just that feeling of, oh, it's only 5:30, 5:45, 6 o'clock, and like we're just getting home, but it's already dark, is really helped by seeing all the lights. That feeling of coming up and seeing all the lights in our house, and like you're excited to be home, you're excited that it's dark out, and it's a way to kind of definitely offset some of those feelings that come from less sunlight, but it does kind of increase joy in our kids, and we have a lot of fun just kind of not necessarily hanging out in the front yard because it's cold, but when we get home, we go check the mail and we find kind of extra reasons to just be outside a little bit longer.
Yeah, and it definitely has a different feeling this time of year when you come home to that tree and you see the lights on it, or if you're celebrating some other holiday, you get that kind of warm feeling as you feel the ambience of that.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So trying to get back to the Christmas presents idea. So we talked about like kind of one of the evolutions was the price limit. The next evolution was doing that gift exchange. A lot of times it's also called a secret Santa, where you don't know who is giving you a gift. Did that in my office a lot, where anyone who wanted to participate would get a secret Santa. So it's kind of a way to. It really helps with like platonic gift giving, where it's coworkers who you like and you're kind of close to, but you don't know well enough to really know what they want. So you only have to devote the time and energy to one person. There have been actually a lot of websites that have come up probably over the last decade that kind of help support this, where they can arrange the secret Santa part of it so you don't know who you got. And so that way the person organizing it doesn't kind of know who everyone got also. So that's one way to kind of help that, is they also get to participate. And then also because it's a website and this is the US and we got plenty of commercialization, it can provide a link to a wish list, or you can get an idea of what that other person likes. But even though it tends to be kind of very materialistic and commercialized, I do tend to enjoy Secret Santa gift exchanges. That's usually fun for me. Have you ever done that either with family or extended family or coworkers?
Yeah, I do recall that popping up now and then. It wasn't too common, but there were a handful of years, and I did enjoy it kind of every time. There's this, like you said, there's a secret notion of you're not quite sure of what's going to happen, where you're going to get it. Whereas, oftentimes in the past, presents were a lot more predictable. You kind of
Mhm.
said, "Hey, Santa, this is kind of what I'm hoping for," and something quite similar, or that specific thing magically shows up. So I do like that kind of aspect. There's a global sourced version of the Secret Santa. I don't know if you've heard about that. Reddit does that every year, where you kind of get paired up with somebody through a matching system that's randomized and anonymous. And it's interesting because sometimes you see posts of people and what they've gotten, and if you get matched up with, for example, Bill Gates, you might have a pretty lucky Christmas. And it's just an opportunity to kind of extend that into the adult world, and especially in a socially distanced fashion. It seems like it might make sense a little more this year than most.
I have heard about that, and it reminds me a little bit like the make or bake party that I talked about previously, but just the idea of I didn't know they paired them up. I thought it was kind of like always a one person forward kind of thing, where you didn't necessarily know who you were receiving a present from. Um, but you kind of, and because you don't know who you're sending it to, you aren't trying to make it specific to any person. You're kind of giving them something of your own creation and hope they like it.
Well, like the example I saw or was with, I'm pretty sure it was Bill Gates, but I'm not sure if it was him or his secretary. They basically looked through that person's profile and tried to figure out what are they interested in, and made them a bunch of custom gifts, like based
Oh,
on
wow.
their personality. So I found that quite interesting.
For some reason I remember seeing pictures. I don't, not big on Reddit. I'm more on Twitter with a little bit of Imgur mixed in. And I remember seeing like just pictures of pretty impressive artwork that
Hmm.
people have received. And I kind of, I can envision that. Like I could make something and send that off and kind of be happy with that process. And I have no idea what I receive. I remember for my office Secret Santa, everyone in my office knew that I was a very proud UCLA Bruin. So the vast majority of things I received were just had UCLA on them. And that always made me happy. I have a blue Santa hat that says UCLA on it. And I'll try and wear that every year.
Nice one. Yeah.
So the other thing that kind of has happened as gift giving, especially as extended families have gotten bigger, we're now, we go over to, especially Jessica's cousins, between the 8 cousins, 4 aunts, uncles, and spouses. We're now looking at 20 adults in a room at the same time. And one, trying to coordinate like a Secret Santa, in addition to like our nuclear family, trying to do the extended family, like it never felt quite practical. But one of the things we do now is a white elephant, where this is, you bring a gift and you don't know who's going to receive it. You don't have a plan for it. And there's kind of 2 ways of doing this. One is kind of you take it seriously, you try and buy a gift that anyone would appreciate. The other is you kind of do it as a joke. And that's how our family has taken this. But the idea is 20 people each bring a gift, say on a scale of $10 to $20, and they're all wrapped, and you put them on a table and use some kind of either dice or cards to have a randomized order. And you, the first person can choose any one of the gifts that's wrapped on the table. They open it, they see what it is. The second person can either open another unwrapped gift or steal the now opened gift that the first person did. And there's a lot of house rules and variations. I think it's also called a Yankee swap, and I've seen other rules. So it can be how many times that present gets stolen. It is usually a limit. So like we always do, if it's stolen twice, then it's locked in. And it's this feeling in the moment of, do you want the known thing that you kind of like or the unknown thing? And you get, and like each person gets to kind of decide on that, except for even the last person. They get to open that last unopened present or steal things. And so you could have it's also like a little bit of game theory mixed in, that if you are the first person to steal something, if someone steals it from you, there's no way to get it back. So do you wait and hope? Because one of the ways is just it just goes through once. So you start an order, it just goes through once. And if, let's say the first 4 people all open a new present, the 5th person steals from someone, the person they stole from now has, again, that choice of stealing another present or opening a new one. And I think you might add rules like they can't steal it directly back. They have to kind of steal forward. But those are always kind of fun because there might be something that is just slightly more enjoyable or less unenjoyable. And so we kind of have fun with that. And the one extra rule that I haven't seen anyone else do, but our family does, is after everyone goes through order once, then we'll go through one more time. They each roll a die. And if it's 7, 11, or doubles, then you get to steal something. So this is kind of a way for someone at the beginning to theoretically steal something that is opened at the end once everything is seen. And just based on 7, 11 doubles, there's a 42% chance that you'll get to steal something, but there's still a 2 steal max. So I know there's a lot of rules for a white elephant exchange, but it is a fun way to kind of not spend too much money. It's good for big groups, and it's good for especially like people who know each other pretty well, and you can have a lot of fun with that.
I kind of sensed a bit of the Monty Hall problem in there.
Yeah. It's definitely the so the Monty Hall problem is like the classic probability. This one, it's that feeling of the unknown kind of thing, because you literally have no idea what that last present could be. So it's not like there's a new car or the great present hiding behind the present number 5. It's you literally have no idea.
Yeah.
So I think it's closer to the Swiss safe deposit box. Would you rather have $1 million or a random Swiss safety deposit box?
Right. I was clicking through the TV. Oh boy, this is probably a decade ago, but there's something called I don't even know the name, but the point is, the storage places where you can stuff away,
like self-storage, and
self-storage, and then if they get abandoned, then it kind of becomes a property of the person who owns the establishment, and then they auction it off. And then you may have heard of this. There's like a show where people bid on it, and sometimes the bids are unseen, for example.
Yeah.
And it's one of those questions of, okay, you have this option of buying this seen one and the value, or you can kind of press your luck and start bidding for something that you just don't quite know. It could be full of gold coins, or it can be full of just kind of trash.
Yeah. So my next door neighbor growing up actually did that, would auction that off, and they would sell enough of the items. And I learned from them that kind of furniture was the most dependable thing. one time there was a handgun in the storage unit that he didn't know, the neighbors didn't know what to do with it because my dad was in the military. He knew how to kind of clean it up and take care of it. I don't think he still has that though. But then I think there's a TV show, Storage Wars, I think, is what the reality TV show that they actually show the bidding on.
Okay, maybe that was it. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't think that TV show's that old.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't had a TV for a while, so.
Since about as old as your daughter?
No, actually, we haven't had a TV with that type of. What is that, cable? Or
probably.
Whatever you have with commercials, that's non-streaming.
I see.
For like a decade or two. Yeah, I may have visited home or something like that and come across it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have heard of, I have not seen it. There's an episode of The Office, I think, where they start out with a Secret Santa and then try to, I think, is it Michael, the Steve Carell character, changes it to a white elephant style. And just, I can imagine the comedy coming from that, because that sounds like a horrible, horrible idea. But I'm aware that episode exists. Yeah, it's I liked the conversation because there are ways to make the process of giving presents, which a lot of times can feel very materialistic and commercialized. You can still have fun with it.
Yeah. And it does add some creativity. Like I remember there was a stint growing up where, maybe this happens more around like the teenage years, where in fact the welcome present turned more into cash or something like that. So there was a stint where that became a lot more common, if I recall.
So this is actually something my wife and I still talk about. I remember my family would sometimes do gift cards. Like there's either a sporting goods store or a restaurant or some other place that like a Best Buy, and we would do gift cards. And when I first met my wife, she was kind of very adamant of, no, we don't do gift cards. We're going to actually buy a gift, even if they return it to that store and get kind of the same credit. We're not going to do gift cards. And so I every now and then I do ask people kind of, it's not necessarily a policy, but maybe like a philosophy, like, how do you feel about giving gift cards? Is that acceptable to you? Or how would you feel if you received one?
Right. It is interesting because there could be different flavors, even depending on the holiday. For example, birthdays, somebody might say, oh, gift cards are just fine, but no, Christmas is different.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. So how would you feel if a sibling or close friend, I guess let's go sibling, or your parents gave you a gift card for Christmas?
Well, so it's interesting because, thinking back, I remember this phase where cash became a little more common, even among
cash became
relatives
more
and whatnot. And as a gift, receiving a gift.
Okay.
And maybe it's also because I get the feeling maybe gift cards weren't common back then, 30 years ago, or, dating myself a bit. But at the same time, you couldn't take a gift card and go online and, do something reasonable with it. Meaning there wasn't internet to actually use it. So I believe cash was actually more common than gift cards. But, at the same time, maybe it's a little bit innate in terms of my philosophy on spending. I just put it in the drawer and let it accumulate. I didn't really spend it. In fact, it kind of turned into like the de facto home ATM on, oh, does anybody have any cash? Oh, I know. There must be some in Trishal's drawer because That's where it ends up. So I don't know if it meant so much to receive it, but I do recall a phase where that became common. And then for whatever reason, I just had cash that was accumulating from that standpoint. And, maybe just the thought of having the cash accumulate was enough. I don't know. Didn't really have an intention to do with it. As time went on, teenage years or college years, I'm guessing gift cards maybe had a more tangible benefit. As a college student, having extra cash is always kind of a good thing, or extra spending money. So maybe then it was kind of appreciated more.
That's a good point. I think in college-ish, I mean, maybe it's late, like high school, college. Yeah, probably having the money to be able to just go out with friends because I didn't have a job all the time. I did throughout college, but in high school, I would only have a job in the summer. But so I can see kind of the money helping, because that happened, especially from like grandparents. They would mail a card with cash inside. But I think one area that we have found we like to use things like gift cards is one, that idea of trying to give an experience, of like, we would not do a gift card to Best Buy or a sporting goods store, even if we knew the person, but we have done gift cards to restaurants where they kind of have to have a night out kind of thing. And this is actually what are likely to use for the daycare teachers, because they've been such an important part of our lives and taking care of our kids for so long. We genuinely want to try and give them a night out that feels special. So we've done kind of gift cards to restaurants, and they send us a picture of enjoying a drink together from the restaurant. So we're always happy to see that. But I think for me, I think once I received a gift card for a round of golf, received, I think, movie tickets. And I think that is one area where if the gift card can be for an experience, it might be appreciated a little bit more. There tend to be things like Groupons that work for that, for experiences. But yeah, I think I have a few gift cards on my desk, and my wife has a few in her purse of just random places just haven't been used yet. It's like, I think I have a leftover gift card from REI that I've probably had for at least a couple of years now. And I don't even know who I got it from or what it's for, but so I don't know where I got the REI gift card. But when I was in my 20s, we were doing the kind of one single expensive gift. I do remember I had asked for a kind of a really nice ski jacket, or a snow jacket, and that was probably a couple $100s, and I still have that. I still love that jacket. And so I remember who gave it to me. So there's maybe something different about the like the gift itself, and like putting in the time and energy versus the gift card. Maybe I think that's what we talked about in the past. Like the gift card maybe just doesn't imply you didn't put in the time and energy, and that tends to be the thing appreciated.
Yeah, I can imagine there's a bunch of trade-offs where, one trade-off is you get a gift and something you don't like. So at that point, you might prefer that gift card. And, there is that difference. I think you made a good point between having something that's just cash or very close to cash versus something that might be an experience that A, you may not put priority on, or B, you just had no idea about. An escape room or a spa or something like that. I can see how that's a little different from that perspective. I do recall going through a phase where, if you're an adult now, you transitioned from a teenager, you're earning money, and then now you're kind of still in that mindset of passing cash or highly fungible gift cards back and forth. You're kind of just paying yourself from some perspective. Like everybody pass, $20 to the right, and
There's a Dilbert comic of that where I think it's for Christmas. Dogbert and Dilbert, they each pull out a $20 bill and hand it to the other one. It's like Merry Christmas.
right. So it does change its perspective, as you kind of age and get older. And I do realize now, probably one of the best presents I could receive at this point is, something like socks.
Yeah, for me, it was there's something I think I need. Oh, I need a bag I used when I played softball back in 2019 because adult rec softball didn't happen this year, and still makes me a little sad. But the bag I used, the zipper broke, and I'd been using that for a long time. So I don't think that I can repair it. So I need a new sports bag, and I've never actually had one that would carry the bat. So I had a sports bag, kind of slinging over my shoulder, will hold cleats, glove, ball, etc. That I have to carry my bat in my hand. And now, I've known about it, but just never spent the money on it. I can imagine a backpack style softball, baseball, sports bag would actually be pretty nice.
Yeah, like well, one thing I heard is if you do receive cash or some sort of gift card to like Amazon or whatnot, it might be a good idea to just let the gifter know, like, hey, I used your money to buy X, that I bought something I really needed. So that might also provide some benefit for the gifter, saying, yeah, that was a good idea.
Yeah. I love that idea. That's a great point, great comment. I think I did that a few times when I was younger. My parents would have me write thank you cards to the grandparents who had mailed the gift cards. And this idea of like I couldn't thank them in person, but letting them know what I used it for. I kind of showed that I appreciated. I think that was the general thing. Like, and that's one of the things I've tried to tell my kids. It's like you want to show that you appreciate someone giving you a gift. That it's not for naught. It's not just kind of a waste of money. Like you genuinely appreciate, even if you don't like the object, you appreciate them giving you a gift and saying thank you and how important that is.
Right. Yeah. It kind of also made me think, are there registries for Christmas where, if you're getting married or if you're having like a baby shower or something, that's quite common these days, you have a registry. I wonder if there's something like that for also these types of occasions.
Amazon maintains a wish list for
that's right. Yeah.
any number of people. So my wife has kind of kept those up to date because she will get questions from extended family and friends of what would the kids like, because especially if let's say they're grandparents that aren't in the area, so they don't see our kids on a regular basis, or even friends like, what does a 7-year-old like? Like their kid is 2 and they're like, what is the 9-year-old like? What is the 7-year-old like? Like there's both age appropriate and they're starting to have different personalities. So there are some things that the 7-year-old would like that the 9-year-old wouldn't like and wouldn't have liked at the same age. So Jessica's maintained a kind of an Amazon wish list for each of them, so that when people say, hey, what would they like for their birthday or Christmas, there's things kind of always on that list.
I think that's a good idea. That makes a lot of sense to me, having something like that, because it also might let the kids participate a bit, but it also lets the gifter kind of self-select a little bit as well, instead of, kind of making this awkward situation where the gifter says to the kid, what do you want? And the kid says, oh, I want a new car. Something silly. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So like right now I pulled up my 4-year-old's wish list that my wife has on Amazon. It's like silly straws, like the looping drink straws. There's a tie-dye party kit. There's some Legos. There's some like really small kid binoculars that he can play with. There's a jump rope. There's a couple of books that we think he like, a bubble machine. So yeah, these are all things that they're all on the scale of like $5 to $25, I think. So but there's enough of them that enough relatives and extended friends, family could go there and kind of see, oh, I like this thing. I want to give the 4-year-old this thing because it kind of fits me as the gifter a little bit better.
Neat. Good stuff, Aaron.
So yeah, this was fun. I hope that you enjoy your Christmas and that you give good presents and appreciate what you are given, even if you don't get the socks.
I'll try my best to look surprised if I do actually get the socks.
Sounds good. Okay, well, I think we'll check back with some New Year's ideas next time. But this is a good lighthearted Christmas present conversation.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And thanks everybody for listening. Of course, if you're enjoying these conversations, do spread the word. Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of the Mind Money Spectrum podcast. Be sure to visit mindmoneyspectrum.com to access the entire library of episodes. Remember, it's not black and white, but the wide spectrum of gray area where you get to pursue the freedoms you want in life. Opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical as no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested in directly. Have a nice day.